European competitiveness, the fight against illegal immigration, and more trade are the areas where the EPP would like to see significant leaps forward. And we look forward to the announcement of Commission President Ursula von der Leyen next week. This brings me to the next topic, which is trade. I think you saw that we have a general trade debate on Wednesday afternoon on the agenda. This debate is not only about the US tariffs agreement, but it's about the European trade in general, also about the outlook and the new opportunities we must look for. The US trade agreement on these tariffs is difficult. I think nobody in Europe can like this agreement, but the EPP group still thinks that this was the right thing to do. Why? Because it is in nobody's interest to go for an open trade war with the US. And even though this is difficult, we think the next step forward is to approve that and then to see how we can make it better. But with trade with the US becoming more difficult, for us it's crucial to look for new trading partners. And that's why it is the official position of the EPP group to not only to welcome that the Mercosur trade agreement is now on the table for institutional approval, but we would like to see this to happen as quickly as possible. We welcome that there have been new safeguards for the farmers put into place, and we would like to see this moving forward now. To say this also maybe a bit polemically, everybody who criticizes the deals with Trump now and the tariffs with the US, everybody who criticizes this should now push to make sure that Europe finds other new trading partners. And that's why we welcome the Mercosur and want to see it move, the Mercosur agreement, want to see it move forward. There are plenty of other topics. I'm happy to answer to your questions in a minute. I just would like to remind that the chairman of the EPP group will have his usual press conference on Tuesday morning at 8:30. You're all invited. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. And now we welcome Uta Tutlius for the Socialists and Democrats.
Thank you, Delphine, and welcome everybody back after the summer break. I hope you had a good time. For us, the week ahead, we will kick off with the press conference of our group president, Iratxe García Pérez, on Tuesday at our usual slot at 10 o'clock. There are many topics on the agenda. Of course, one of the key topics is the State of the Union debate with the Commission President. As you might have seen, we have sent a letter to Commission President Ursula von der Leyen this week. In this, we, of course, lay down our priorities and requests, and we focus them around three key areas: security, solidarity, and sustainability. For us, the upcoming SOTEO will be a turning point. In the current global environment, the EU must lead by example on the world stage and provide security, but also well-being for its citizens by defending peace, social justice, solidarity, and democracy, all of them not a given at this moment in time. Silence or inaction is no longer an option. This historic moment requires urgency, unity, and ambition. In our letter, we call for urgent action, especially on European security and global action, especially when it comes to Gaza and Ukraine, social justice and solidarity, including the launch of an affordable housing plan, sustainability and climate action, not to forget. Let's not give up the Green Deal, but recommit to it. democracy and digital sovereignty, among others, especially the European Democracy Shield. And to make all this possible, we ask, of course, because otherwise it is not doable, for a bigger EU budget with new own resources, joint borrowing, and a real investment capacity. Of course, many of these priorities link to the agenda next week, and we did our bid that several items are included next week. The first one is, of course, Gaza. The humanitarian catastrophe is unacceptable. Every day, innocent lives are stolen by the war crimes of Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu. But the world looks away. It is time for the EU to step up and act in the name of humanity. And the situation demands a joint EU response. Therefore, we have pushed for this topic to be on the agenda, not only with a debate, but with a resolution, as mentioned by Delphine. It is time to condemn the famine in Gaza, to back a two-state solution, to demand the release of all hostages, to impose sanctions against Israel, enforcing labeling rules for settlement products, and to suspend the EU-Israel Association Agreement. But of course, as I said, also Ukraine is still on our everyday's agenda, and there's this horrible war going on in this country with Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. When it comes to this war, we call for more action and less words. We call for more increased weapons delivery, stronger enforcement of even tougher sanctions, the confiscation of frozen Russian assets, and long-term support for Ukraine's security. When it comes to the two reports on the agenda next week, our line is also very clear. Ukraine is part of the European family and would greatly strengthen the EU. So we urge both the Commission and the Ukrainian authorities to maintain momentum on essential reforms. Final point for me, it was mentioned, which we also called for and thought this must be discussed, is of course trade, and in particular the EU-US trade deal. One thing is clear, Trump's tariffs war is illegal, unfair, and unacceptable. The framework agreement with the US is neither reciprocal, nor fair, nor balanced. It puts European workers and companies at risk while undermining international law. We call for much stronger and a much more united response from both the Commission and the Member States. Our priority must be to protect jobs and competitiveness in Europe, to strengthen Europe's autonomy, and defend the rule of law. But we really need safeguard measures to protect our industries and a binding review clause to shield Europe from Trump's unpredictability. Now it's turn for the EP. So we will work on the legislative proposals and their annexes, and of course we will demand lots of clarifications. But one thing is clear. EU regulation and EU sovereignty are non-negotiable. They are at the core of the EU project. And let me finish. Delphine mentioned it. Many of you have been back from vacation. So take a look at the travel package that is put forward for vote next week by our S&D rapporteur, Alex Saliba. And also, I think I can announce that we are calling for a minute of silence for the victims of the very sad funicular accident in Lisbon this week, where so many people lost their lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uta. And now we have PFE, Alonso de Mendoza.
Thank you, Delphine. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and welcome back. I hope you have a great break. This week in Strasbourg will be very important for the first time in a long time. Thanks to Patriots for Europe, this Parliament will debate insecurity. Insecurity created by uncontrolled illegal immigration. This is not a small issue. It's a growing concern. Citizens across Europe are worried. They want safe borders, they want safe streets, and they want security for their families. We will also follow carefully the State of the Union debate. Everybody knows what Patriots for Europe think about this European Commission and its president, and we think more and more Europeans share this view, and we can see this election after election. That's why we insist on creating a special committee on transparency and accountability. After Qatargate, Pfizergate, NGOgate, etc., it's hard to believe that not all groups support this. It's about transparency, and we should be united against corruption. But we will keep pushing, we will keep working, and we will keep defending our industry, our agriculture, and our families. On Tuesday at 2:30 p.m., we will present the European Civic Survey on freedom of speech. It's a very interesting event and a very interesting survey organized by our very respected MEP Antonio Tanger Correa. And on Wednesday at 2:30 p.m., we will hold our usual press briefing with President Jordan Bardella and First Vice President King Gagal. I don't see any debates on Hungary this time. I hope everything is okay. That's it. Thank you very much. I will take your questions later. And if not, see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Alonso. Now we have for ECR, Stephen Jones.
Thank you, Delphine. Good morning, everyone. Hope you had a good summer. Back to work. Never trust your spell checker. I was coming down with some typed notes and realized I had written about the state of the onion. And although one can have a philosophical discussion about the European Union as a concentric layer, a series of concentric layers, it's probably a philosophical discussion not for today, and I'll stick to the agenda. So, State of the Union. I have to say that what Daniel has said is pretty much what I wanted to say, and that suggests that the EPP and the ECR have very much a similar approach to the politics of the European Union these days, which is encouraging, and also that the European Commission is progressively coming round to that perspective. But we feel as well that the European Commission needs to go further and needs to go faster, whether it's on jobs, growth, deregulation, and that buzzword competitiveness or competitivity, depending on how you want to say it, that really needs to be put into action much more than just simply words. We also see the security element of what the European Union is seeking to do coming much more to the fore. We welcome that, providing that it does not compete with NATO. And you just have to look at what happened in Beijing this week to see the nature of the way in which our strategic rivals who are hostile to us want to reverse the world order. We're also concerned about tackling illegal migration, and we need to distinguish clearly between legal and illegal migration to halt smuggling and trafficking and establish a list of safe third countries to enable returns, and that work is ongoing. Talking of competitiveness, again, coming back to the trade dossier, Mercosur was, the draft text was presented this week. We, in principle, support the diversification of the EU's trading relations. We are in favour, in principle, of an EU-Mercosur trade agreement. We want that to contain the safeguards that the Commission appears to have taken on board. We need to establish whether they are sufficient for our farmers and our agri-food sector. But certainly, a better and stronger relationship with Latin America can only be good for the European Union in terms of diversifying its strategic alliances and accessing critical raw materials. Two reports by ECR rapporteurs coming up on the agenda this week. Piotr Müller on public procurement. So this is an own initiative report that deals with the the revision of the public procurement framework. An astonishing 14% of European Union GDP goes towards such public expenditure. And the rapporteur has tried to ensure a balanced text that takes into account the need for more SMEs to be able to participate in this process, and also that certain criteria are not made mandatory but are part of the incentivization process, so that we're not just looking entirely at price and above all other criteria. There have been hundreds of amendments submitted both at committee stage and a lot at plenary stage, so I'm reluctant to draw out too many conclusions at this point, but please feel free to come back to me next week once the vote has been done. And the other ECR rapporteur, Anna Zalewska, on the Waste Framework Directive, as Delphine was saying, some more incredible figures about 60 million tonnes of food waste and textile waste as well, and the lack of recycling that takes place. This revision seeks to deal with that in a way that doesn't overburden us with bureaucracy, but also takes into account our environmental responsibilities. One more issue, Colombia. You will recall perhaps that I mentioned this when Senator Miguel Uribe was lying in his hospital bed, having been shot as an act of political terrorism. He's since passed away, very sadly. And that, to us, is a demonstration of the terrible decline and deterioration of security in Colombia that this debate will hopefully draw out. We remember Miguel Uribe, and we bear in mind that Colombians simply want to participate in free and fair elections and live in a country where they are safe and they can walk down the streets without being attacked. So with that, I'll just say that our co-chairs, Patrick Yaki and Nicola Procaccini, invite you to our briefing at 10:20 on Tuesday morning, and I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Now we have Vincent Stour for the Renew.
Thank you, Delphine. Good morning, everyone. I learned a new German word this week. It's Selbstschadenfreude, or Autoschadenfreude. It's the perverse pleasure that some people had over the summer in our own misfortune as Europeans. There was very clear will in our group to get through that this week and next week with the State of the Union. One of our MEPs, João, compared it to the Karate Kid. He said, when you are being bullied, it's not a question of banging on about how weak you are, but to go away, train, make sure that you come back stronger and fitter, and that is what we expect from von der Leyen to do next week, to make sure what the workout of the year for the European Union is. And we too have sent a letter with our priorities that make it more specific and that link to several points on the agenda already next week to make it more specific. The first, I won't be too exhaustive about them. The first is to get Draghi done. We had a very successful seminar last week, even if I say so myself, with a very blunt message. The biggest trade we can still do is still within the European Union, and the biggest obstacles to trade are also still within the European Union. It's been calculated by the IMF that barriers that we ourselves raise to trade within the internal market are, as far as goods concerned, the equivalent of a 45% tariff, and on services it's a whopping 110% tariff. We need to do better in removing these obstacles, especially if our trade partners elsewhere are less inclined to do so or even raising them. And we are not doing a very good job. 1 year after the Draghi report, an independent group set up monitoring mechanisms on pledges and how they are implemented. It turns out 11% has been implemented so far, and only about 30% is even going properly through the pipeline. So we need to get Draghi done properly, and we need all the focus on that, specifically what we have in hand for ourselves. It links into a couple of things on the agenda. Monday, there's the public procurement, which is a very important sector. There's a debate also Monday on Capital Markets Union. Wednesday, the external element where we agree with what has been said more from the centre-right of this House, where you indeed look at the trade agreements that we can still sign with other partners, be it indeed Mercosur, but also Canada, Mexico and elsewhere. If we have fewer friends than before, we need to link up to them more successfully and step above our own taboos and traditional barriers as well, political barriers, that is. And on Thursday, MEP Laurence Fareng has this initiative taking up to what's happened in terms of free trade and freedom of academia elsewhere, where we really want to hammer out a vision for the European Universities Alliance. That was the competitiveness part. I'll go through the others quicker if my time is running out. Second priority that we need more steer on from the Commission is protecting our democracy. We do need a better steer through a European rule of law semester. We do need to look at how we can link our smart conditionality better into the MFF. And it also links up with the debates that we have on Moldova, on Serbia, on Ukraine. Especially important in this sense, and there we are somewhat miffed at the Commission, is the discussion on the democracy shield, where both the committee and our group are getting impatient with the Commission not putting the proposals and the communications on the table. This is the time to do it, and we hope to hear more steer from von der Leyen next week. Third priority is security. Obviously, the defense issue, where we really want the outlined plans for a genuine defense union, integration from the factories to the actual forces, and not to shy away, as we have done for quite some time, for inconvenient geopolitical truth, such as the link that we have in our geopolitical agenda, such as Ukraine membership, what we do ourselves within the European Union institutionally. The fifth priority is indeed institutional reform, something that many forces in this House, but especially in the Commission and Council, have shied away from, not least President von der Leyen herself. Our actions, our promises, our commitment to EU enlargement are not very creditworthy, not very reliable, if we don't link them up to the way the European Union works itself at the moment. It is unfit to be the geopolitical player we need it to be, and it is definitely unfit to have new countries acceding to the EU. We need to have that debate. There's an important work stream in the AFCO committee on the institutional needs and demands of enlargement. We hope to finalize this somewhere later this month and get it to the plenary as soon as possible, but it does need more serious engagement from the Commission and from the Commission President in particular. And 5, obviously, climate. If we want to protect our children in the sense that some parties like to speak of, then we need to make sure that we protect our environment better than we do, especially if it is targeted by partners that turn against it. Discussions like the one we have on Tuesday on carbon border adjustment and how it is undermined our own legislation by other parties are extremely important. That for the State of the Union, I think it's a very important session. We need to move beyond the Schadenfreude and get our act together. Our President, on a practical note, will be answering questions on this and other issues on our press conference Tuesday morning at 10:40. And if you can't wait till then, I'll be here for your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vincent. I think you covered the other part of the agenda that I didn't mention earlier. Pia co-host for the Greens.
Yeah, hello. Welcome back, everyone. We hope you had an excellent summer and a fresh rentrée. The sad news about this summer is again that for thousands and thousands, sun no longer means having a light-hearted, easygoing time, but rather protecting themselves and their beloved ones and their homes from heat waves and even fires that swept across Europe again this summer. On our initiative, MEPs will debate the issue, and it's sad to see that there was no agreement reached to include the word climate in the title of these debates, which means ignoring science and the fact that we just urgently need to get down emissions, protecting people from dying, and protecting our economy. We also need to prepare our cities. As we see, we are not often people's homes and workplaces are not well equipped for giving shelter from unprecedented heat waves. What we also witnessed this summer is the EU-US trade deal. And this is a deal, an agreement that can cost the EU billions of billions, financing the US president's fossil dreams and subsidizing US big tech. So this deal is not a fair deal, and it's for certain not a stable one, as we saw when the US president kept on threatening the EU with new tariffs right after having signed the agreement. So we call on the Commission to trigger the anti-coercion instrument, and on our behalf, IMCO Chair Anna Cavazzini will take the floor, amongst others. The EU shall also not let Donald Trump and Elon Musk dictate our own legislation. There is a way to fight back these attacks from US big tech on our elections and also on our values, and it is the Digital Services Act, which is putting digital monopolists in their place. The US tech bros need also to pay taxes, so there we need a change, and we say make them pay. On our behalf, it will be Alexandra Gese and Kim van Sparentag taking the floor. And speaking about change, we, on the state of the European Union, the Greens EFA group is expecting a strong message of change. What we did see this summer, though, is a trade deal that increases dependency on the US, while the massive challenges the EU is facing, such as greening and boosting our economy and industry, be leading in green investments and jobs, attacks against the freedom and values and fighting climate change will certainly not be solved by deregulation, and certainly not by appeasing autocrats and wannabe dictators, tech oligarchs and destructive right forces. So we want the EU Commission to take back initiative and to show leadership. This is the moment to show that the EU can be a strong force and a credible and united force. Bas Eickhout will speak on behalf of the Greens EFA. There's another topic I would like to touch, which is Gaza. On our initiative, also the MEPs will vote on calling the EU to act against people dying from famine and starvation. And while the Israeli Defense Forces are expanding even their offensive from Gaza City, the total blockade of the Gaza Strip has pushed Palestinians into a massive famine, while the EU shows poor action, risking their international credibility. We continue to call for a ceasefire, to call for the release of hostages and for the suspension of the association agreement, as well as an immediate halt to arms exports with the exception of defensive systems. Let me stress that our Italian Benedetta Scuderi, in an attempt to break the maritime blockade and allow humanitarian aid for Gaza by sea, will join the global summit flotilla with dozens of ships set sail this week. We are happy to arrange interviews in case you are interested. Another topic I would like to stress is a topic that, again, didn't make it on the plenary agenda. And we must stress it's quite remarkable to see that this parliament, there is no majority for debating the Mercosur deal, even though it's being called again and again a historic deal. Doesn't come as a surprise for you that we are against. And we have been urging for debates for many times. So just to stress that no matter where political groups stand, a majority in the EP obviously does not seem to take themselves seriously enough as lawmakers to put such an important debate on the plenary agenda and leave it up to the Commission and to the member states to tell them just what to rubber stamp. That's from the Greens EFA for us for now, and we're happy to welcome you to our presidential briefing on Tuesday with Bas Eickhout and Terry Reinke at 11. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Pia. And now we have Tom Shannon for the left.
Thank you very much, Delphine. And good morning, everyone. So the left have three priorities for this session, which includes the State of the Union. So what is the state of this union? Let's see how it's working for our first priority, climate. On the topic of the state of the onion, you can tell this commission hated vegetables because they're just wiping everything green off the plate. And let's start with the Common Agricultural Policy vote on Wednesday. We need quality food, vibrant rural areas, but what do we see? A forcing through of the Mercosur trade agreement that is a catastrophe for our farmers and workers, all at the same time as cutting the agriculture budget. Too bad, farmers and climate. You should have been fighter jets. Then maybe you would have got something. So then there's the wildfire debate. It's on Tuesday. And you know what would help stop wildfires is the Green Deal. And yeah, that's the same deal that the Commission is dismantling before our eyes. So I do wonder how long those in the Parliament that care about the climate can continue to support this Commission. So let's see how the State of the Union is for the second priority, workers and economic justice. So there's a debate on Monday for public procurement where the main focus is simplification. Do you remember what that means? Deregulation. It's fantastic for big business. Then the European Social Fund and the cohesion debates on Tuesday, which sees even more money taken from social spending to give to, well, certainly not housing. You probably guessed it. It's to arms dealers. And then we have the digital tax question on Wednesday. The question, can we tax Google or Twitter? I remember way back in 2021 when our colleagues in Renew called taxing these digital companies a political emergency. And our colleagues in S&D and the Greens have been at our side on saying tax the rich fairly. But what are all the groups watching now? Commissioners frantically scrambling down hallways, sweaty and out of breath to stop a tax on Google so that you don't make Trump mad. Because you wouldn't want a bad deal with him now, would you? So let's go on the trade deal with Trump that we're going to be discussing on Wednesday. Now, you will see members from all groups saying that we have seen a capitulation to Trump and U.S. interests. So this is endangering jobs all over Europe. I also wonder how long those in the Parliament that care about working people can continue to support this Commission. So the State of the Union for our final priority, Gaza. The genocide of the Palestinian people continues with impunity, and the people of Gaza starve under a crippling famine. A flotilla brings aid with, we have the Parliament's chair of the Palestine delegation, Lynn Boylan, and MEP Emma Foro is there. We are here with a debate on Tuesday and a vote on Thursday. We have been pushing every single time for a resolution. We are very pleased to see that the groups have finally joined us in that. Now, the European Commission on their side, they're still working on their review of whether or not Israel is breaking its human rights agreements while we continue to trade with them. There are no sanctions, no actions to stop the horror. So how can we, read the stories and hear the voices, see the images of the children and say that this complicit von der Leyen Commission can still stay in power? I really wonder how long those in Parliament that recognize the situation in Gaza for what it is can continue to support this Commission. And if you want to hear more about how the left wants to put an end to a State of the Union with a devastated climate, impoverished families, and complicity in genocide, you can ask our co-chairs, Martin Sturtevant and Manon Aubry, next Tuesday at 11:20 a.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. And now we have, for the first time, ESN Group represented with Vijay Monani. Welcome, Vijay.
Thank you very much, Delphine. My name is Vijay Monani. I'm the spokesman for the ESN Group, and I will briefly tell you how we approach this plenary session. And if you don't mind, I'd like to do it in French. C'est la première fois que j'ai l'honneur de prendre la parole à l'occasion de la conférence de presse, et c'est donc pour moi l'occasion d'insister en premier lieu sur le fait que notre groupe est attaché à la souveraineté des nations et à la liberté de parole de ses élus. En termes pratiques, cela signifie que je vous donnerai aujourd'hui les grandes orientations de vote du groupe ENS et que les députés du groupe ont toujours ensuite la capacité de défendre les intérêts de leur nation. C'est d'ailleurs le principe qui se trouve au fondement même de notre association. Cela signifie aussi que nous partageons une conviction commune, l'Europe doit protéger ses peuples et non les contraindre par des réglementations excessives ou des idéologies qu'on voudrait leur imposer. C'est donc dans ce contexte que je poursuivrai, si vous le voulez bien, en suivant l'agenda de la session plénière. Mardi, le Parlement débattra de la situation de l'Ukraine. À cet égard, notre position est constante. Nous considérons que l'Union européenne a eu tort d'ouvrir des négociations d'adhésion. Nous considérons en effet que l'Ukraine n'a pas vocation à rejoindre l'Union et nous refusons par principe l'élargissement permanent qui détourne l'Union de ses priorités et de ses devoirs qui consistent à protéger d'abord les citoyens de ses États membres. Mercredi, la présidente de la Commission, Mme von der Leyen, prononcera son discours sur l'état de l'Union. Nous avons l'intention d'y répondre avec clarté. Nous dénoncerons le cadre budgétaire insoutenable présenté dans les perspectives financières de l'Union, qui alourdit la pression fiscale sur les ménages et les entreprises et qui détourne l'Union européenne de ses priorités. Sur la PAC, nous refusons avec constance la bureaucratisation de la politique agricole commune, avec toujours plus de conditions imposées à nos agriculteurs. Nous considérons en effet que les normes qui pèsent sur les agriculteurs doivent être allégées au lieu d'être renforcées. Sur l'énergie, enfin, nous appelons à une politique de souveraineté nationale et de pragmatisme. Surtout, nous dénoncerons là encore avec constance une dépendance excessive aux énergies intermittentes. Toute la semaine, plusieurs textes vont tenter d'imposer des contraintes nouvelles aux Européens. Le texte sur les déchets textiles et alimentaires imposera aux États membres et aux entreprises des contraintes tout à fait excessives, sur une temporalité d'ailleurs extrêmement serrée, puisque l'ensemble de ces mesures devront être appliquées à l'horizon 2027. Toujours dans cet esprit qui consiste à systématiquement refuser ce qui porterait une atteinte excessive à la liberté des entreprises, nous voterons contre ce texte. Le texte sur la circularité des véhicules impose lui aussi des contraintes excessives sur les constructeurs automobiles, en allant jusqu'à donner le détail de la part d'éléments recyclés que devra comporter chaque véhicule sorti d'usine. Nous considérons que là encore, l'Union européenne est trop souvent conforme à sa caricature et apparaît au peuple et aux entreprises comme ce qu'elle est, c'est-à-dire une machine hyper régulatrice qui a toujours pour conséquence d'affaiblir nos industries et de brider les initiatives. Enfin, sur la politique agricole commune post-2027, nous voterons contre une bureaucratie verte qui menace la survie de nos exploitations familiales. Les élus du groupe Europe des Nations souveraines constatent dans leurs nations respectives une lassitude croissante des exploitants agricoles à l'égard de normes toujours plus contraignantes et toujours plus coûteuses. Concernant la compétitivité économique des pays de l'Union, nous voterons contre le texte sur les marchés publics qui alourdit les procédures avec des critères idéologiques. De même, nous voterons contre le projet d'union de marché de capitaux qui centralise toujours plus les décisions financières à Bruxelles au détriment des souverainetés nationales. Jeudi, j'aimerais en parler, le rapport sur les élections européennes prétendra tirer les leçons du scrutin. Et là encore, les élus du groupe Europe des Nations souveraines seront extrêmement vigilants à ce que la lutte contre la désinformation ou contre les ingérences étrangères fréquemment avancées ne soit pas finalement des prétextes pour empêcher le débat d'idées, limiter la liberté d'expression et au final museler les oppositions. En matière de relations extérieures, nous aurons une position pragmatique. Nous voterons pour certains accords que nous considérons utiles et équilibrés. Je veux parler évidemment de l'accord entre l'Union et le Brésil pour la coopération policière, ou encore l'accord avec la Suisse sur le projet Galileo, accord qui apporte une sécurité juridique bienvenue, selon nous, à une coopération déjà ancienne et équilibrée. J'ajoute que nous voterons également pour l'accord avec le Vanuatu. En revanche, nous nous abstiendrons sur l'accord avec l'Union indienne en matière de coopération scientifique. Nous considérons en effet que cet accord reste trop déséquilibré, où l'Union européenne finance la majorité des projets sans contrepartie réelle et visible. Enfin, nous serons heureux de participer au débat sur l'immigration porté par les Patriotes, au cours duquel nous défendrons une ligne très claire, la protection de nos frontières, la protection de l'identité des peuples européens et le refus d'une immigration incontrôlée qui génère des tensions croissantes dans désormais la totalité des pays de l'Union. Voilà, mesdames et messieurs, l'esprit dans lequel le groupe Europe des Nations Souveraines aborde cette session plénière. Nous défendons la souveraineté des États, nous voulons simplifier la vie des entreprises et des citoyens des États membres. Nous refusons l'idéologie verte et l'écologie punitive et nous restons fidèles à notre boussole, la liberté et la souveraineté des nations. Je serai très heureux de vous retrouver tous la semaine prochaine à Strasbourg et je serai heureux de répondre à vos questions pendant les 4 jours de la session. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Vijay. And now we have time for questions. Can you please introduce yourself and say to which groups your questions are addressed? So we will start with Max.
Thank you. Hi, Max Griera for Politico. I have several questions. I would like to start with Mr. Monani. Thank you for coming to the briefings. However, it's been a whole year we didn't have ESN represented, so I wanted to ask why and whether the strategy and communications has changed internally, if there's bigger changes going on in that sense. To the left, I want to ask about the motion of no confidence. When are you planning to present it? Do you want to have it in the 1st or 2nd October plenary? Is that the plan? For the Patriots, for Alonso, I want to ask about your motion of no confidence. Is it coming? When? Are you scared that the fact that the left has their own means you won't be able to do your own? Are you also expecting to have it for October? And then for Renew, S&D and Greens, will you support or not any of these 2 motions? Thank you.
Okay, let's start with the first question. Vijay.
Merci beaucoup pour votre question. Vous savez que nous sommes le groupe le plus jeune de ce Parlement européen et il nous a semblé que cette session, au cours de laquelle il y aura le discours sur l'état de l'Union, était une excellente opportunité pour commencer à venir vous parler.
Très bien. So we move to the other question that regards the motion of non-confidence. Tom?
Yeah, sure. So the answer, when did we want it, which plenary? We wanted it a long time ago. I think that what is going on right now is that we see a commission, you heard from sort of our priorities for the plenary, that the commission is kind of going against everything that, well, we stand for, but also other groups stand for, sacrificing workers, destroying the Green Deal. So the left group is discussing a resolution on censuring von der Leyen, which we think is right, to remove her and her policies from power, and MEPs are discussing it with signatures at this time.
Okay, we will take Alonso.
Yes, as you know, we are working on it. We already announced it before summer. Any update will be communicated at the right time. That's it. Thank you.
And now we have reactions that were requested. Would Renew, S&D or Greens want to intervene? Yes. We start with S&D.
Yeah, maybe just to say that, of course, what I said in my introduction, what we need is action. So a new motion of censure every 2 months, of course, is such not possibly the way to ensure stability for our European project. This said, our group will discuss on what is on the table next week. So I cannot say any yes or no at this moment in time. Thank you.
Renew?
I think same for us. We'll see it when we have it and when we have our discussion in group. But it is a weapon with a precise. This motion is a weapon with a precise goal. You don't want to use it too often and blunt it for when you really need it. Some of these things can just be discussed and criticized very brutally in the Parliament if need be. We would not want to go to a situation where every month you have a new motion for a different reason.
Okay, and the Greens?
Thank you. We haven't discussed yet, and on a personal note, we just did this exercise or practiced it like a couple of weeks ago, so might also not overstretch this.
Okay, there was another question in the room. Yes, Laura?
Hi, Laura Zornoza for EFE. So I have follow-up questions to both of Max's questions. So for Mr. Monani, does this mean that your group leaders will also be joining the Tuesday press conferences in Strasbourg, or are there any plans for this? And on the motions of no confidence, of censure. So for the left, can you give us an update on how many signatures have been gathered so far? And for Delphine, actually, I didn't find this in the rules of procedure, so I don't know if there's an answer to this, but is there any time limit for how long the motions can gather signatures? Is there like an expiration date to them, or can they just remain open forever? Thanks.
Thank you. We'll start with you, Vijay.
Notre président ne participera pas à la conférence de presse, mais je me tiens évidemment à votre disposition durant les 4 jours de la session si vous aviez des questions sur n'importe quel sujet.
Do you want to add anything, Tom?
Not to that point, but on the motion of non-confidence. Yeah, so the signatures, I won't talk about the procedure fully unless Delphine wants to add something on there. Right now, we have just started the collection of signature, and I don't know the exact number right now. We need an extra 26 signatures on top of our group, and all I can say is that it seems to be going quite well, maybe faster than we hoped. We'll see.
And then the procedural point, not to my knowledge, if I read the rules of procedure, there is, of course, another threshold if you repeat the exercise of the motion of non-confidence in a time frame that is less than 2 months, where you need not 1/10 of the members, but 1/5 of the members. And I will come back if I find anything else, but according to me, it's not the case. Any other questions in the room or online? If it's not the case, then I wish you all a very good weekend, and we see each other for a very dense session in Strasbourg next week.